For the first time on TV, the Duchess of Cornwall has given unprecedented access to her life throughout her 70th year.
Well, it's a very good courtesy.
At home,
There's always a nice welcome from the dogs. They're always pleased to see you, and they never answer you back.
on tour,
I couldn't believe how warm and friendly everybody was. And I came back with loads of pizzas.
and at work.
I mean, Madonna has been absolutely wonderful with all these charities and takes a huge interest. I mean, she's remarkable. She's the best listener in the world, you see, so she can get anything out of anybody.
What's your favorite color?
Blue.
Okay.
And what's blue in Italian?
Blue.
Blue. Oh, ask a silly question.
We talk to friends,
This huge love story has been hard fought for, I think.
family,
I think it's brilliant that the Prince of Wales faces all sorts of things with my aunt next to him, and vice versa.
and those who know her best.
I was saying so happy birthday. It's not my birthday yet. I've got 4 days to go. So, well, live it up for the 4 days, then go out and enjoy yourself.
From debutante to divorcee to Duchess.
I mean, I think the Red Tops were very naughty. They wanted to find a villain of the piece, didn't they?
A Camilla we have never seen before.
How do you cope with it?
I usually go and have a good cry.
Through a year of seismic change for the royal family. Celebrations of babies and marriage, but also painful anniversaries.
It will be very difficult for Camilla to step out of the shadow of Diana.
We ask, will the nation ever accept Camilla as our queen?
The fact of the matter is that when Charles becomes king, Camilla will be queen.
Right now, so this is Mr. George, darling.
At Prince Charles and the Duchess of Cornwall's official London residence,
Hello, how very nice to get you here today.
Camilla, patron of Silverline, a charity supporting the elderly, hosts a small tea party in her sitting room.
Very nice to see you. Have you had a good tour around the house?
Beautiful, beautiful.
Good. Well, come and sit down. Everybody's had a sandwich, have you?
I've had two.
Oh, you've had to.
Siblings Alice, Mary and George Dowling were attacked twice in their own home.
Well, it's lovely to get you here. Such a horrific story that, twice you were...
Yeah.
Yeah, you were burgled.
Yeah, the shop up against the wall. My sister, he caught all her arm. He just cut there a little bit, but I've had worse when I fell down the stairs. I had worse than that. But he said, "Where's the money?" I said, "You took all the money." So he said, "You lied to me." I did punch one.
You did?
Yeah.
Oh, quite right.
I thought,
You gave as good as you got.
I thought to myself, I better not do that again. He didn't even move. So I didn't.
And then did you call the police?
Oh, yeah.
Yes. Yes. They've been looking after you properly.
They have.
Yeah.
They have. And they've been so good. You couldn't wish for better. They do their best. They can't do no more than that. And be
Couldn't
worse.
do without them.
And the Paras.
Yeah, and the Paras.
Yeah, I love the Paras.
Well, why do you love the Paras?
Because they're lovely. They're strong. They're fearless. I wish I was 20 years younger.
It's been a real joy to meet you.
It's been a pleasure meeting you.
Well, I think you've all been
I
so...
haven't corrupted you.
You haven't corrupted me. Well, I hope you don't mind being filmed. This crew are filming me for a documentary. So you'll have to make sure you watch it.
Well, I will.
We'll have to tell you when the date is. So then you'll see yourself on film.
God help them.
But it was lovely to meet you.
Thank you for letting us in your house.
Well, it's a very good courtesy.
Oh, was it good?
Very good.
Oh, thank you. I've been practicing.
You're very good at it.
Thank you.
Bye.
The Duchess of Cornwall spends less than a third of her year at home in London. Most of her life is spent on the road, travelling the UK and the world. It's March 2017. Camilla is on an official tour of Italy with her husband. Today, they're in Florence. Representing Brand UK, the Duchess of Cornwall is working harder than ever before.
I think when she married Charles, she thought that nothing would change. She would go to a few dinners and be with him here and there. But I think she had no idea quite what her life would become.
After 12 years of marriage to the Prince of Wales, she is now a central member of what the Duke of Edinburgh once dubbed the Firm.
Hello, children.
Hello, welcome. Hello, Arthur.
Nice to see you.
Caught up at last.
This morning, a visit to the British Institute.
Hello. I haven't seen this girl do have very good laugh. Hello. 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 Very good English. Hello. How old are you?
8.
8. So, 8.
Sì. No, quello spagnolo.
No.
Most people, as they get older, tend to slow down. Nearly 60, to suddenly say, well, this is what you're going to do for the rest of your life. That must have been a huge awakening in some ways. But let's be honest about it, she has taken to it like a duck to water.
Do you want me to draw an animal?
Really up to you.
What can I draw? What should I draw? You know what this is?
Horse. Bello. Wow.
It's very difficult to draw like that.
It's very difficult without your glasses on.
What's your favorite color?
What's my favourite colour?
Yes.
Blue.
Okay.
And what's blue in Italian?
Blue.
Blue. Oh, ask a silly question. Have you got a favourite book?
Pinocchio.
Pinocchio with a big nose. It's very good, Pinocchio. It teaches you not to tell big fibs. Have you got a favourite book?
The Book of Minecraft.
The Book of Minecraft. That's a very interesting one, isn't it? Arrivederci.
Arrivederci.
It's quite a strange thing to happen. This kind of fame where you suddenly go, oh, now for the rest of my life, I will never be free. That's something. I'm sure she misses the fact that in the old days she could do anything she wanted and nobody would have observed her, and now the eyes are on her forevermore.
Can you tell him that I hope next time I come, I shall be bringing my husband?
It's interesting to watch Camilla's popularity outside of Britain. And I think that's because, of course, they're not all steeped in the whole minutiae of the Diana tragedy. They don't have all that emotional baggage. They see it as the prince and his great love affair. And, you know, it's kind of operatic.
She's travelling a lot. She hates travelling. She's terrified of flying. And every other day she's in a helicopter or a plane. She's all over the place. She doesn't like the heat. She hasn't taken on the easiest job.
It's quite tiring. It was a very long day. We were 6 hours travelling. I mean, it was wonderful, the reception. You know, I couldn't believe how warm and friendly everybody was. I came back with loads of pizzas.
The Duchess returns from the world stage. A dog walk with a private secretary in the grounds of one of her and Prince Charles's favourite retreats, Dumfries House.
The west of Scotland isn't exactly known for its sunshine, but it's a bit of a surprise. It's rained all day.
In terms of her happiness, I think she's probably happiest in the countryside, you know, being in the fresh air. If you're going to take on 200 appointments, you've got to have a refuge, and that refuge must be being in the countryside, fresh air, doing the stuff that you like, as well as the more formal commitments.
Now, the nice thing is, when you come back from those tours, there's always a sort of nice welcome from the dogs. They're always pleased to see you, and they never answer you back. But the awful thing is, once you've had Jack Russells, it's very difficult to have anything else, because I don't know, they're the most intelligent dogs. They suss you out long before you suss them out. I've got a pocket full of treats at the moment. Come on.
Camilla is first and foremost a wife, mother of 2, and grandmother of 5.
Do the grandchildren get very excited when you go away? Because they can see you on television, can't they?
They spot me occasionally on television, yes, and then they'll rather tend to wave. They expect me to wave back again.
And is it nice to be a grandmother?
Wonderful. Yes, I'd recommend it to everybody. It's very nice because you haven't got the full responsibility. You can give them a wonderful time, spoil them, give them all things their parents won't allow them to have, and then give them back again.
Today is the Dumfries House Charity Dog Show. Prince Charles joins Camilla and her Jack Russells.
This is Beth.
Where did Beth come from?
That's the dog's home. Little Paul sat up saying, "I need a home, please take me." And that's Bluebell, the other one. She's another one. That's it. And she was in a terrible state. She had no hair, and somebody, I think, had tied her to a central reservation of a motorway just to run her over. And somebody cut her loose, and they found her with no hair, just wandering around the place. It was the cruelest thing. Just can't believe people do these things.
Well, she's gone to the right home now.
They've fallen on their paws.
She is not interested in position or status. She is a very normal, very grounded person who has found herself in love with a person who happens to be the Prince of Wales. If you had asked Camilla years ago whether she would be interested in becoming Queen, she'd have laughed at the idea. She'd have said, hey, how horrific.
She's managed in a chameleon sort of way to become royal, but she's not really. And I think that if you had her sitting here, she would say, no, I'm not really royal at all. I'm just married to him.
Why did Charles, who cares so passionately about the monarchy, how could he risk all of that for the sake of this one woman?
To celebrate her 70th birthday, the Duchess of Cornwall has allowed unprecedented access to a year in her life.
She goes like grease lightning.
Camilla is spending time with her dogs at the royal couple's Scottish hideaway, Dumfries House. Prince Charles took out a £20 million loan to save the estate from ruin.
If you could have seen it, you know, when the Prince first spotted it, you wouldn't have believed it was the same house. It was so sad and unlived in and unloved and neglected. And it had a really eerie feel about it. There was definitely a ghost, without a shadow of doubt. I remember the first time I walked up the step, got into the hall, and I thought, I can't go any further. I literally froze. If my hair could stand on end, it would have done. But I remember leaving and thinking, I don't want to come back here again. And I didn't for a few years. And then I walked in, completely new house. Whatever was there had disappeared. The whole thing seemed to be smiling again. I love hearing clocks striking together. We've got 10 or 11 grandfather clocks that were collected by the Queen Mother. They're all supposed to strike at the same time, but they never do. However much you wind them, they're always out of sync.
I think the key to every human being is their childhood and their early experiences. Camilla's was absolutely idyllic. All of her siblings would say there was not one single thing that was wrong in their childhood. They had the most wonderful time.
Camilla Rosemary Shand was born in London in 1947 and brought up in a Grade 2 listed former rectory near Lewes called the Lanes.
When my aunt and mother and late uncle talk about the Lanes, it was always about kind of golden summers. She had, I think, a very, very happy, bucolic childhood. She's the eldest daughter. She was adored by her parents. Bruce Shand, my grandfather, was a decorated war hero, the quintessential English gentleman. Rosalind, my grandmother, who was a very strong, direct woman, literally was the matriarch that organised that family.
This is England in the 1950s, a very different place from what it is today. Her mother and father were very relaxed about the children, and Camilla and her sister and friends would take their ponies and disappear off onto the downs. Very Enid Blyton. And there were no anxieties.
I suppose at the time I was 13, 14, she was 14, 15. She was, to me, typical of upper middle class girls of her type and time. Very pretty, she was very lively, she was very horsey.
But Camilla was educated in London, Queensgate in Kensington, leaving at 16 with 1 O-level. She attended a Swiss finishing school and then learnt French in Paris. She returned to London to become a debutante.
She looked pretty gorgeous. She's well endowed, which is very sexy when you're that age.
She always had something about her. The French call it the je ne sais quoi, don't they? There was a sort of frisson, I think, with Camilla.
She was fun. You know, that was the thing about Camilla. People enjoyed being in her company. She made everybody laugh. And she drank copiously, and she smoked, and she was up for anything. She loved parties.
Camilla's set of well-connected young people mixed freely with the royals.
I think she was a first love for Charles. He was only 23, and that was his first real love affair.
And they called it puppy love.
They had a little fling, 1972, for 6 months. And Mountbatten was really Charles's mentor. And he said, lovely, you two have a great fling, but you know that this cannot end in marriage. Camilla absolutely is not a contender.
You've got to remember that half a century ago, it was not really possible for the heir apparent to marry outside a royal circle. So Charles going out with Camilla didn't lead anywhere.
With the pair going their separate ways, Camilla resumed a relationship with Andrew Parker Bowles, an officer in the Household Cavalry, whom she'd courted on and off in the late 60s.
Andrew Parker Bowles was extremely good-looking. He had more sexual allure, and Prince Charles had more social allure. When she felt that Charles was gone off and doing his stuff in the Navy, she felt really that she had, I think, probably got no better answer to her marital future than Andrew Parker Bowles, who was, as I say, a very attractive man.
Their marriage at Wellington Barracks was considered 1973's Society Wedding of the Year.
They were married at the Guards' Chapel. There was a guard of honour and trumpets and everything. The Queen Mother was present. Princess Anne was present. So it was about as society as it gets.
The Parker Bowles had 2 children, Tom in 1974 and Laura in 1978. Tom, the successful food writer and critic, is Prince Charles's godson. And through the 1970s and 80s, Andrew played on Prince Charles's polo team.
Andrew is a very naughty boy. He is very gorgeous, and everybody fancies him. He doesn't turn that down.
Andrew Parker Bowles, being a serial adulterer, meant that she was always on the lookout for the other woman, and there were quite a lot of other women. She had everything materially. She had houses, she had a wonderful social life, she had her children, she had her acres, she had her pursuits and her flower arranging and her hunting and all that.
But she was unhappy in the sense that she was the betrayed woman.
And this was the real problem. This is what sent Camilla back into the arms of Prince Charles.
In the late 1970s, Camilla resumed her relationship with Prince Charles.
Camilla is not an adulteress by nature. Andrew was away an awful lot. He was not particularly bothered about her. Charles was somebody who was really kind to her, and I think it just, they fell into each other's arms.
It was to be a short-lived affair. There would be no escaping the expectations of a nation for Charles. Duty called.
Is there any possibility that any announcement of your marriage in the near future? Can you tell me? Can you tell me if there's any possibility? I'm not going to say anything, please.
Diana seemed to be absolutely the girl for Charles. She was an aristocrat, the daughter of an earl. She was a virgin, and she was an Anglican.
And I suppose in love.
Of course.
Whatever in love means.
Everybody encouraged him, and his family thought she was marvellous. Everybody thought she was marvellous. And she presented as this very happy-go-lucky, cheerful, laughing, funny, uncomplicated girl. But the truth of the matter was she was far, far more complicated than she gave the impression.
By the mid-90s, both the Wales and Parker Bowles marriages were at an end.
In an ideal world, wouldn't it have been wonderful if Charles and Diana's marriage had been a wonderfully successful one? Similarly, Camilla and Andrew Parker Bowles. But it didn't happen like that. Marriages do break down. There must have been terrible moments of pain. Whoever you want to attribute blame to, blame in a sense is irrelevant. These things happened.
A decade of difficulty was still to come for Camilla. But by 2005, the announcement of a new chapter in her life.
Tonight they emerged as a couple soon to be wed.
How are you feeling, ma'am?
All right.
Just all right?
I'm just coming down to earth.
Did he get down on one knee to propose?
And just 3 months later, she married her prince.
She was probably a little more nervous than... Well, maybe most brides are nervous, but yes, probably just like most brides. So that's the outfit, and it was a silk tweed coat. It swung beautifully, had quite a lot of movement to it.
It was a really happy day because clearly these two people had been in love for a long time, and this was the end of a journey. I think it was the Queen who said something in her speech about, I think it was the same day of the Grand National, that they'd got over Beecher's Brook and that her son was with the woman that he loved.
"12 years on, Prince Charles and Camilla are hosting a charity tea dance.
It really is a match made in heaven. I'm more than slightly envious myself. Do you know what I mean? They have a laugh, they get on very well together, they're very supportive of each other, and I think they're sort of travelling at the same speed.
They are madly in love. This is a love story that has passed the test of time. It's a great love story in every way. When you see them together, what you notice is their amazing body language.
To face difficult situations alone must be really lonely sometimes. So I think it's brilliant that the Prince of Wales faces all sorts of things with my aunt next to him, and vice versa.
The summer of 2017 sees the royal couple enjoying life to the full But the past returns to haunt them with the 20th anniversary of Diana's death.
It's almost as if there is a PR battle going on between Diana and Camilla, which is absurd in that Diana has been dead for 20 years. And yet there are forces swarming around the royal family who are determined there's going to be a fight between these two names.
Will the Duchess ever escape the ghost of a princess? In 2017, the Duchess of Cornwall allowed a rare insight into a year of her life. Late July. 70th birthday celebrations are in full swing and approval ratings at an all-time high. Camilla and Prince Charles are enjoying their annual tour of the West Country.
Happy birthday, Your Royal Highness. Happy birthday to you.
Today, they're an established team.
Brilliant. Very much indeed.
It's easy to forget. Prince Charles risked both public approval and his position in the monarchy for the Duchess.
Charles had two great desires. One was that he should inherit the throne, and two, that he should marry Camilla. And these desires conflicted, but he was determined to have his cake and eat it.
I'm going to have to taste your marmalade after all these years.
But this huge love story, this extraordinary love story, sort of agonizing in many ways, has been hard fought for, I think. Hard for all parties concerned. And you have to have strength of character not to waver in that.
Charles made it absolutely clear that Camilla was non-negotiable, that she was part of his life, and if the British public wanted him, they had to have her as well.
Something with a good sun-tan here.
Have you just met the Duchess?
Met the Duchess, yes.
And what did you think?
I thought she was absolutely charming. The most beautiful blue eyes I've ever seen. Absolutely wonderful.
And does it feel right that she's here and she's by Charles's side?
Oh, yes. They look very happy. They're a good working couple. Very lucky to have found each other.
Most elegant
This is too obvious, man.
This is a song is bonded.
And happy birthday.
Thank you. I think I'm birthday like that.
Successful birthday celebrations in the West Country. But within a couple of days, public opinion proves as fickle as the British weather.
So tell me about your feelings about Camilla.
No, I mustn't.
Did you like
Diana? Yes. Yeah. I did love Diana, and yeah. So everybody loved Diana, didn't they?
It will be very difficult for Camilla to step out of the shadow of Diana's life, and more particularly Diana's death.
And the end of August saw the royal family once again forced to relive painful memories.
It was never going to be an easy year for the Prince of Wales and Duchess of Cornwall. The 20th anniversary of Diana's death was always going to be massive as far as the press were concerned. It was always going to be a huge thing for the public. We saw that with documentaries that William and Harry made about their mother. A lot of criticism as to why wasn't the Prince of Wales mentioned, how difficult that was for the Duchess of Cornwall, you know, Diana versus Camilla.
She would have cared very much how it affected Prince Charles, as many old sores were resurrected, and, you know, she would care that he cared.
Diana died so young. She'll never grow old in our eyes, and that memory of her will be beautiful and clear and magical in its way. She'd had such an iconic position in all of our affection. It can't have been easy for Camilla. She was at one stage the most unpopular woman in the world, maybe.
Not fair.
When I think back on it now, it's absolutely like a witch hunt. I mean, I think the red tops were very naughty. They wanted to find a villain of the piece, didn't they?
The element of anger and irrationality and viciousness was so beyond what had happened.
They're attacking her for everything, her hair, her outfits, at one stage her unplucked eyebrows. It's also incredibly ageist because the press could not get over the fact that Prince Charles gave up a supermodel for an older woman. I mean, this is kind of like taboo.
Some of the things she's had to put up with, the kind of latent longing for her to be horrid, how she was a marriage breaker and things, all the things which were not true, but which anyway, which was widely spread out to the public.
Camilla's response to the vilification was to keep quiet. She took a leaf out of the Queen's book, and the Queen doesn't give interviews, and she didn't give interviews. In other words, she adopted a classic sort of royal pose.
Her father, Major Bruce Shant, was, a very strong, supportive figure. And at one moment, when the press were enormous amount of reporters and cameramen outside, he came out, and they all crowded round and thought there was going to be, some remarkable statement. And he looked at them, and he said, "In our family, we keep our traps shut." Turned round and walked back inside.
It can't have been easy. I think she clearly was brave, but most importantly, she knew that she had the love and support of the Prince of Wales. And I think that carried her through some pretty dark days.
I love the fact of knowing a little bit about the family, which is that the two young princes adore her and she adores them, that her two children adore the Prince of Wales and he adores them. So no matter what the press say, these things I know. And this makes my heart calm, because you think, it doesn't matter what people say, this is the fact of it. This is the fact.
Charles and Camilla have been publicly mocked, humiliated, criticised, had everything thrown at them. The last thing Camilla needs is my advice. But were she to ask me, I would say, you're doing exactly the right thing now. Just talk about the causes you believe in, the work you do, be as natural as you can be with the people you meet. Carry on exactly as you are.
In London, the Duchess holds a charity birthday reception, bringing together famous patrons, friends, husbands past and present.
I mean, my daughter has been absolutely wonderful with all these charities and takes a huge interest. So they were all telling me anyway about what a difference she makes. And I know how seriously she takes it all. But she does have a wonderful way with people, you see. That's the special thing, I think. I mean, she's remarkable, really. She's the best listener in the world, you see, so she can get anything out of anybody and find out their life's history in a very quick, short time.
Charles always talks about my darling wife, and this is almost like a refrain in his speeches. And he's grateful to her, and he's supported by her, and he feels cherished by her and protected by her.
I'm so pleased that it's been possible to organise something like this with all my darling wife's organisations and charities. Because it's such fun meeting them all, apart from anything else. Because I don't always come across them. But the fun sometimes is to see if you can find ways of linking them up with some of mine, so you get even greater synergy, you know.
The Prince of Wales, I think sometimes can be a bit misunderstood and come across as someone who is serious and overly sensitive. But Camilla sort of brings out, the liveliness and the joy in him.
I was saying to her, happy birthday. It's not my birthday yet. I've got 4 days to go. I said, well, live it up for the 4 days, then go out and enjoy yourself.
And you know the Duchess in the context of Battersea?
I do. She's taken so many dogs, various members of the family. She's a really great patron. So she takes the work home with her, a bit like myself. So, I think she's taken about 4 dogs now, 4 or 5. That's going the extra mile. You're not only the patron and being actively involved with the charity, but you're also, putting your money where your mouth is by adopting a dog, which is great. It really is great.
I can only choose causes that, I sort of feel from my heart. I wish I could say yes to everything, but you can't. I've got to be able to feel them and have a sort of understanding that I can do something to help.
For the last 5 years, Camilla has been making low-key visits to sexual assault referral centres around the country.
I think her work around supporting survivors of sexual abuse and rape has been really important because so much of it has been done behind the scenes.
In Plymouth, you get a lot of people coming in.
We do, yeah.
I've talked to women who, 30 years on, have still not reported it.
Yes,
definitely. So
definitely.
too ashamed
Yes, definitely.
and embarrassed to do so.
And that's why our service is so great, because it's the aftercare.
They've always got somebody
Definitely,
there they can talk to.
Yeah, that's right. And it's not about reporting all the time. It's about looking after them and making sure that they're pointed in the right direction.
And you're not on your own. That's the thing, which a lot of people are.
Yeah.
She might not support the most glamorous causes, but I think she supports causes that she feels are important for her to push forward and help.
Hi, everybody.
Every year in December, the Duchess invites children living with life-shortening conditions, their parents and carers, to decorate the Clarence House Christmas tree.
Hello, how are you? I like that chest. And has it got little bells too? That's really cool, isn't it? Don't you always wear bow tie? You don't always wear bow tie. So I think we came up with the idea of having the Christmas tree here. And it's become an annual event. It's pretty big. A lot of these children are dreadfully ill. You sometimes wonder, the next year, are they going to be here?
How do you cope with it?
I usually go and have a good cry. It just makes you realise how lucky you are. Then you see these brave parents and the carers who have very tough lives looking after these children, and they don't complain about it, they just get on with life. They love their children. I had a very privileged childhood, a very happy one, and as you go around, you realise there are more and more people who, don't have my luck. Well, it's quite nice. Anyway, I think it is one of my highlights of Christmas.
Are you ready for Christmas?
No, I never am till the last minute. No, like everybody else, there's a sort of last-minute rush, and then, you've got parties here and parties there, and keeping everybody happy. And no, I'm not ready. It comes round so quickly. The older you get, the quicker it comes round. You get past Christmas, and next thing you know, it's Christmas again.
What would you buy her for Christmas?
I would buy her. I mean, she likes reading a lot, and she's very well read. So I would buy her good fiction, maybe some plants, and maybe a box set of something crappy, that kind of thing.
And have you got a present for the prince?
No.
Is he difficult to buy?
Not as yet, and he's impossible to buy for. No, I haven't got round to that yet, but I will. Usually comes at the last minute.
It's been a year of work, celebration, and difficult anniversaries for the Duchess, but also a time of immense change. Prince Philip stepping down from public life after 7 decades of royal duty. The announcement of a new baby. And a royal engagement.
Huge changes afoot. And at the heart of all of that, the Duchess of Cornwall's role will change as all those things take shape. So 2017 has been momentous. The Duchess of Cornwall knows that as someone who is a very senior member of the royal family, who will one day be queen, the next 10 years are going to be all about stepping up.
I think the day the Queen dies is going to be a very, very difficult period for Camilla. I think she dreads it. I think this is another thing she doesn't really want to think about. She's not concentrating on it right now. I think she's quietly hoping it never happens and that the Queen lives forever.
The year draws to a close, and the Duchess of Cornwall treats her 5 grandchildren with a trip to London's West End.
Camilla's magnificent with her grandchildren. She's called Gang Gang. She spends a lot of time, as much time as when she's not doing her job, with her children and with their children. We congregate as a family in the same way most families do. And every family comes together and we all revert to type. And when I see her, I find her exactly the same person who was telling me off when I was 10 years old or being an irritating teenager or whatever.
Happiest with family and countryside, Camilla's last end-of-year pilgrimage is to the Olympia Horse Show.
I think if you're in love with Prince Charles and make a future with him, you've married that. And so what to a passerby goes, ooh, how lovely, you get to wear lovely clothes and things like that. Actually, if you sit and think about it, it's an extraordinary place to be.
From debutante to divorcee to Duchess of Cornwall. This has been a journey that now sees Camilla holding 90 patronages and presidencies, carrying out over 300 events a year.
Oh my goodness!
Today, she is hosting some of the most influential women in the country.
I'm delighted to welcome you all to Buckingham Palace on International Women's Day.
I think the first speech she made in public was at the Ritz Hotel, and I have never seen anybody so desperately frightened and scared of having to make the speech stand up. I could tell it was murder for her, and I thought, how brave you are. I think she's finding it easier now.
Now, in these turbulent times, I believe it's more important than ever for women of all ages and from every walk of life to unite.
I would love for everyone to know the Duchess that we know, that there's the warm, loving, have a little laugh and smile for someone Duchess. And so I don't think that everyone sees that outside, and we've been extremely fortunate to see that side of her.
Most impressively, she talks to everyone, and I think it must be so knackering, and she does it with such a sparkle. I mean, she's my favourite royal. I'm not just saying that. Obviously the Queen, but after the Queen, Camilla.
She probably would make quite a good queen. She certainly has the poise and the neutrality. Apparently neutrality is, been watching quite a lot of The Crown. Apparently neutrality is a good goal to have as a queen.
When Camilla married Prince Charles, she became the second highest ranked woman in Britain.
It's very interesting that still a large percentage of the population is uneasy about the prospect of having Queen Camilla on the throne. But she's come up the hard way. She's served her apprenticeship. She knows how to keep quiet. She knows not to demonstrate. She knows not to upstage her husband, for goodness sake.
So if you think back to the last Queen Consort, Queen Elizabeth, the Queen Mother, she was a much-loved figure, and although her entry into the royal family is very different from Camilla's, she shares in common with Camilla certain sterling qualities.
Camilla knows very well that what she has to do is to do what Prince Philip has done very admirably in his public persona, which is to take second place.
Camilla will be Queen Consort, and no amount of fudging or saying she may be Princess Consort will change that. She will be Queen if Charles is King.
As we've seen with our current Queen, she's been a great Queen because she's been assisted absolutely brilliantly by her husband, the Duke of Edinburgh. And when the Prince of Wales eventually becomes our king, with my aunt next to him, he will be a great king.
I can't see any logical reason why she shouldn't be Queen, unless people are holding a grudge going back 20 or 30 years. We have had divorced kings before. Henry VIII being one who took more drastic views and actions with his wives.
No one knows when the Duchess will be faced with the next step in her professional duty. But But for now, at least, her immediate future is focused upon family.
A very busy year ahead. We've got babies, we've got weddings, we've got a bit of everything. And then, of course, we've got my husband joining me in the 70s, which I'm very glad he's at last able to caught up with me. So that'll be the end of the year, but it's going to be full of excitements.
Just like every other family, there's always things going on.
There's always something going on. So fingers crossed that everything goes well for everybody. Bye.